Hey friends, as a collector, you run the risk of actually reading the books you collect. Don't panic if it happens to the best of us. And as a horror collector, some of these things I read can be scary. Now I know what you're thinking. There's no book scary enough to scare Beef Daddy. Well, I've narrowed down the top 5 scariest reads that could possibly scare me. These came closest. And we'll take a look at them right after I did a thing. Before we get into the list, I'd like to start with an honorable mention. There's one chapter in this book, The Tommyknockers, that scared the bejesus out of me, and I didn't even know the bejesus was in me. There it went, and I saw it go. And it wasn't the whole book, because the whole book gets panned a lot, but this one chapter called The Shed was just, it creeped me out when I was a kid. It really haunted me. And then when I read it as an adult, I thought, there's no way that's going to hold power over me. It's not going to bother me at all. But sure enough, there's something about this chapter that just struck a chord with me, and it persists. It's not just a fluke. Rereading it, it holds up. And actually, the whole book held up. I really liked it upon this reread. This is the PS Publishing edition that I got. It comes in 3 volumes, art by Daniel Serra, and there's no doubt, no question about why he chose to put an illustration on that chapter, The Shed. So check that out. Good book. Doesn't get nearly the love it deserves. And that chapter, wah! So let's get into it. Top 5 scariest books. Coming in at number 5 is Pet Sematary. Now, this is one of King's darkest reads. It really gets at the heart of grief and desperation that are born of love, of father's love, family love. It strikes at how vulnerable families make us to both feel great love but also feel the great pain. And this is just a perfectly paced horror story that really cranks up, winds up, right to that chilling end. And I don't think Stephen King ended a book as perfectly as he did in Pet Sematary. That last sentence, man, really gets to me. If you've read this book and you don't remember that sentence, I guarantee you flip back and you check out that last sentence and you'll remember. Perfect punctuation to a book. This is like an umpteenth thousandth printing hardcover. Nothing special about it. I missed out on the PS Publishing edition. And apparently Cemetery Dance is going to be doing a Pet Sematary edition for their Doubleday years to wrap up the Doubleday years. I would very much like to get that, but they haven't even taken orders for it yet. So that's a little bit ways off. But I did tell the folks over there at Cemetery Dance that just for that edition, they should go from CD to CS, and they should spell cemetery like this. Cemetery Dance. Just for fun, but just on the slipcase or whatever. You know, let's not get the lawyers involved. It was a good idea. They didn't take it, I don't think. Great read. Coming in at number 4 is another Stephen King book, and the only other Stephen King book on this list. I know, I started with Tommyknockers and Pet Sematary, but now we're moving into It. This thing is incredible. This It, and this is really Stephen King at his best. This explores the magic of childhood, the powers of those friendships, and the world that only children can see. A world that preys on children, whether those predators are parents Piers or Pennywise. They all come for kids, and the power of the imagination. This is a book that really clicks and gets in your head and makes you realize that the things you fear the most are just an imagination thought away. Just so there, it's so near the surface. It's really an inescapably awesome book. If you haven't read it, you got to let yourself go. You got to kind of feel the fear of these kids, which is such a primal fear, that vulnerability, that helplessness, but yet that determination to dig deeper and be heard and overcome. And even as adults, we kind of never overcome that childhood. So this, of course, is the CD edition, the anniversary, 25th anniversary edition, the first cemetery dance book I bought. And this is like going up in so much value, but I would never, ever sell it. It is such a special read to me. Coming in at number 3 is Brother by Anya Alborn. This barbaric read never lets you get comfortable. Just when you think you know this twisted tale, it takes another twist. It's a blood-drenched story about how families make us and can break us. This was my first Alborn read, and she walks the line perfectly, giving you just enough to keep you going. Not too much to turn you off and make you run for the hills, but all along the way, she keeps cranking it up, and your tolerance for more grows, and she exploits that until that pitch-perfect ending. This is the edition I read, obviously, the Suns Up edition, with some incredible walnut paper and Samuel Araya art in there, and just amazing stuff. But if you can't get the Suns Up edition for the ultimate reading experience, of course, get any edition. It's really worth it. You can find paperbacks everywhere, Amazon, easy to find. It's worth a read. Summer read would be fun, because summer reads are the funnest. Coming in at number 2 is Offspring, the sequel to the horror milestone Off Season by Jack Ketchum. That tale of a group of vacationers who encounter a group of cannibals as the cannibals invite themselves over for dinner. This read takes the brutality of that read, which includes a recipe for human jerky, and turns it up to 11, while also exploring the underlying theme of what is savage and what is civilized. This is a perfect read that is equally intelligent and brutal. That is, if you give it a good read, a good close read. You won't come away with this feeling that you were screwed over by just reading torture porn or some just garbage brutality. There's a point to it. Let it work its magic. Now, I don't have a copy of that because I have one on pre-order from Dark Regions Press, and that was on order since like 2018, so I think they still have copies available. So that's the good news for you. You can get one and get my top 2 scariest read. And coming in at number 1 on my list of top 5 scariest books that I've ever read is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is a book that puts you on a meat hook right between your shoulder blades and spends the rest of the book pulling down on your ankles so you can feel that hook sink deeper and deeper, and even after you're done with that final page, you're never off that hook. It's a raw, uncompromising story, beautifully written, that explores, again, like Pet Sematary, but in a much more profound way, the lengths people will go to for that unconditional love between parent and child, and how hard they would fight against a brutal, barbaric world to keep their kids safe. It's an amazing book, and I think for me it's the most terrifying because I never felt any relief in the book. I felt tension the entire time. I was really just grabbed by it, shook by it, and I'll never forget it. And so it's made the most profound impact out of any book I've ever read. And the version I last read, of course, was the Suntop edition. But like Brother, I would recommend that you get any edition you can get your grubby little hands on. This is a pricey edition. I'll even forgive you if you get the Folio Society edition. You could do that. That's acceptable. It's a fine reading copy. But if you want the ultimate, then you'll spring for the Suntop edition of The Road. So that would be what I'd recommend. So I hope you enjoyed my top 5 scariest reads of all time. Pet Sematary, It, Brother, Offspring, The Road. With an honorable mention to Tommyknockers. Get out there if you want a good scary read. I'd recommend Brother for the summer, It for the summer, Pet Sematary for the fall, The Road every month of the year. So thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Oh my God, I forgot to say stay frosty. Unbelievable. But that wasn't the worst thing about the video. So if you want to get that out of your brain, here's another video. Or you subscribe if you wish, and get more of this pain.